7.579.150.000. This is the estimated number of the current human population. According to researchers' estimates, in 2016 we exhausted annual renewable resources in just 7 months. In practice, this means that human beings consume twice as much as our planet can regenerate. Soon, food resources may not be enough to guarantee everyone's livelihood. What does the future hold? What life will our children and grandchildren have? Many scholars have tried to answer these questions, but the hypotheses are numerous, and the certainties scarce. Predicting the future, even by a few years, is extremely difficult. There are so many variables at play that formulating an accurate forecast is almost impossible. However, there are transversal experiments that, although not directly applicable to humans, offer disturbing insights. The most famous and plausible of these began in 1962, when scholar John B. Calhoun conducted an experiment on the population density of rodents, which could have anticipated the fate of humanity. Calhoun, an internationally renowned ethologist, had already carried out numerous studies on human population density, many of which influenced the expansion of the world's major cities. He started from a fundamental principle: man is the dominant species on the planet, capable of deciding the fate of all other forms of life. But what if a perfect society, with unlimited resources and no external danger, was made available to a group of living beings? Calhoun decided to find out using mice as experimental subjects. Universe 25, as the experiment was called, was designed to ensure maximum well-being for rodents and to increase their life expectancy. The structure, 2.7 square meters, had walls 1.5 meters high, with 16 tunnels covered with metal and connected by 4 horizontal corridors. In total, there were 256 nests, each large enough to house 15 mice, for a combined capacity of more than 3,800 rodents. The environment was provided with clean water, plenty of food and materials for the construction of nests, with everything needed for a comfortable and safe life. The utopia of the mice was monitored very carefully, the perfect world was cleaned every 4 weeks, the temperature was kept constantly at 20 degrees Celsius, and each specimen introduced was selected from the best of the colonies of the National Institute of Health, minimizing the risk of disease. The experiment began with the introduction of 4 pairs of mice. For 104 days, the rodents explored their new environment and familiarized themselves with it, before starting to breed. Under those ideal conditions, the population doubled every 55 days, and soon space began to run out. However, until day 315, there were no obvious problems. The mice ate, socialized and reproduced, bringing the population to over 600 individuals. But this was the turning point. Population growth suddenly began to slow down, and the perfect world became more crowded and stressful every day, for both newborns and adults. Competition for territory and females became too intense, leading alpha males to abandon their dominant roles. Society began to disintegrate. The dominant males became extremely aggressive, attacking females and cubs. Many specimens developed hyperactive behaviors, while females, constantly attacked, began to reject the maternal role and kill their young. Infant mortality reached 96%, with corpses cannibalized, despite the availability of food. The rat society fragmented into groups, the weakest gathered in the center of the tank, passively suffering the violence of others and dying of hunger. The highest on the social ladder became almost completely inactive, refusing to mate to preserve their health, focusing only on basic needs, such as eating, sleeping and grooming. Some of the mice engaged in violent behavior and incessant attempts to mate, in order to transmit their genome. By day 560, the population had reached 2,200, and growth had stopped completely, despite the fact that Universe 25 could house more than 3,500 mice. By day 600, pregnancies were rare, and the babies born were almost always killed by their mothers. This marked the beginning of the collapse of the population, which began to decline rapidly. Although some mice were still physically able to reproduce, they had lost the motivation to do so. A social death had developed that preceded physical death. Calhoun's experiments, including Universe 25, have led to similar results, with outbursts of violence, hypersexuality followed by asexuality, and finally self-destruction. The paradise of mice, over time, turned into hell. Although these results refer to mice, many scholars believe that they can also be applied to humans, envisaging apocalyptic future scenarios. For Calhoun, if human population growth were to remain unchecked, society could succumb to nihilism and collapse, leading to the end of the species. Some researchers have tried to replicate the experiment on humans, observing densely populated urban realities and finding many similarities with Calhoun's model. If population expansion continues at this rate, the human world population is estimated to reach 9.7 billion in 2050 and 11.2 billion in 2100, an unsustainable level for both available resources and humankind itself.